everybody? My name is Djedi for Nuwaupic Online, and this is the first video in a new series that we're starting for Nuwaupic Online. And what we hope to do is to offer tips and advice on how to speak, read, and write Nuwaupic as best as possible. We intend to be taking your questions, helping you pronounce difficult words or sentences and things of that nature. To begin with this video, what I want to do is first go over a question that was presented to me and how to pronounce some of the relatively newer letters in the language. Many of these letters are actually very old. They've been there throughout the existence of Nuwaupic, but in a different form. So what I'd like to do with this video is try to go over some of those characters and sounds. Now, what I'd like to say first is that when it comes to the way that we pronounce Nuwaupic words, there are three sources that we try to pull from to get an understanding on the correct pronunciation. The number one source that we go to is Nuwaupic.com, which is the source of our Nuwaupic language updates. And those updates come directly from the administration of Panabab Yanun. And so we go to those sources first at Nuwaupic.com. Second to that, we use word relations to try to come to an understanding of proper pronunciation of words and characters. The last source that we use to come to an understanding of proper pronunciation is the language itself, and that is the script. We use an analysis of the script and the root languages to come to an understanding of proper pronunciation. And I'm going to do my best to exemplify how we do that so that we can pass on those pronunciation tips to eager students who are trying to learn and do their best to pronounce Nuwaupic words. So the first thing I want to do is go over some of the more difficult characters in the Nuwaupic alphabet. The first one would be the DZ character. Okay. Now, as a note, there are 41 characters in the Nuwaupic alphabet, and each one of those characters is unique, meaning each character does not look like another character. They're all unique in their shape and their form. So theoretically, each character should represent a unique sound, one unique character to one unique sound. That's the way that language is supposed to work. So in theory, each character represents one unique sound. However, there has been some questions posed to me about how are we to pronounce these letters. There are language guides in the language books offered to us by the administration that attempt to explain how these characters are supposed to be pronounced. If you picked up the Nuwaupic Language Book Part 1, in the beginning there's a list of all the Nuwaupic characters, as well as English words that are supposed to help you better pronounce those characters, which would lead to better pronunciation when you go to say a word which has that character in it. So the first letter that we want to go over is the DZ, and it is very similar to a standard D in English. Okay, the word that is given as a language guide in the Nuwaupuyee Harafaat Book 1 is dole. Okay, dole, D-O-L-E in English, as in to dole out something, to give something. And the implication here is that this D is supposed to be a harder D, a heavier D, as opposed to the normal D. Okay. Um, an example word in Nuwaupic is the word for morning. It's dahe, dahe. It's a heavier D. Uh, the other D is supposed to be a softer D. If we were to try to say the word morning with the soft D, it would be dahe, as opposed to dahe, da. It's a harder D. One of the ways in which we know that this DZ character is a harder D or a heavier D is because of word relation. In particular, if you're familiar with one of the older dialects of Nuwaupic, the word for necessary was darori, darori. Now, Nuwaupic got the word darori as necessary from Nubic, one of the older dialects of Nuwaupic before it became Nuwaupic or Nuwaupic at the time. Nubic, as it was uh, explained to us by the master teacher, was the language that the children and the Ansarullah community or the Nubian Islamic Hebrew community created themselves after being taught Arabic over a number of years. This Nubic evolved eventually into Nuwaupic and then into Nuwaupic, and now we have Nuwaupuyee, which is the most recent dialect of the language. So Darori comes to us from the Nubic, okay, and in the Nubic it's also Darori, okay, and it's this heavy D sound, this da. In the Nubic script, the letter or the character that makes this da sound is the letter dog, 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 okay, and then we got this da, and it became darori. Currently, the word for necessary in Nuwaupuyee is darur, darur. Same word, different phonetics, but it's got that same heavy D sound. And if you look at the word in Nuwaupuyee, it is the character is DZ. Okay, so that's how we know that the DZ represents that heavy D sound. Okay, so we relate a word in Nuwaupic to a word that is in one of the older dialects of Nuwaupic in order to get an understanding of the proper pronunciation of that character. So we went from Darori in Arabic to Darori in Nubic to Darori in Nuwaupic and now Darur in Nuwaupuyee. Okay. Now the next character that we want to talk about is this DJ character. Okay. Now there's been some discrepancy over how do you pronounce this, and the pronunciation has been known to change fairly recently. And so what we would like to do to get an understanding of how to pronounce this is try to find something, a guide that has been in the past to help us understand the proper pronunciation. Like I said, each character represents a unique sound. If you have listened to the Pa'ashutatsi, there's a section near the end of the audio where the WAB goes over the 99 names of the Neteru. One of those Neteru is the Neter Jet, Jet, and it's pronounced Ya Jet, Ya Neter. Now, this Jet is spelled D-J-E-T, okay? As a variant, it's also spelled D-J-E-D, okay? So you have Jet and you have Jed, like as in a Jed pillar, okay? Now this DJ is pronounced like a soft J, like a letter J in English, okay? So if you think about a word with a letter J, as in the word Jeep, right? Like a car, the type of vehicle that you drive is a Jeep, okay? That would be a hard J. If you were to pronounce the word Jeep with the soft J, it would be Jeep, Jeep, as opposed to Jeep. Jeep, hard J, Jeep. That's kind of what this DJ sounds like. It's a sort of buzzing sound, a soft J sound. It's a zh. So this DJ is pronounced zh, zh. Okay, and there are a number of words in Nuwaupic that have this DJ character in it, such as jadud, as in to say. Like, what are you saying? Shanash athar tak jadud, jadud, saying jadud. Okay, or jafur, to braid someone's hair. Jafur. The next character I want to go over is the hard S. Much like the hard D sound or the heavy D sound, this S is a heavy S or a hard S. Okay, and it's used mostly when the S sound is meant to be low. An example of this would be the word for friend. That's sodok, sodok, right? I sodok or sodok means saw, okay? Again, this sound comes to us from Nubic and also from Arabic, where the word for friend is also sodok or sadiq, right? So it's a heavy S or a hard S. It's used when the S is usually low. Okay. The next letter or the next character is the hard T. The hard T is more of a popping sort of sound. Okay. And the only way to exemplify this harder T is to compare it to what we might call a normal T. Okay. So you have ta, that's normal, and then the hard T would be ta, 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 ta. Okay. In the language guides given in the Nuwaupuyee Language book, they compare this T as in the T used in the word tower, tower, ta, ta. The reason why we know that this is a hard T, that this type of T pops sort of, is again through word relation and then through script analysis. If you take a look at the character for this hard T in Nuwaupic, it's very similar to the character for a hard T in Nubic and in Arabic. Examine, if you put the two characters together side by side, you'll see that they are very, very similar. An example of this harder T in Arabic is the word mintaqa, which means an area or zone or region. In Nuwaupic, the word mintaqa became mantiga, a very similar word. So through analyzing the scripts, we can see that the characters for one are the same, and then through relating a word in one of the root languages of Nuwaupic to a current word in Nuwaupic, we can see that this is also a similar letter. And then through the language guide in the Nuwaupic Language book, we can see that this is the type of sound that they're hinting towards. Ta, ta. Another word in Nuwaupic, current Nuwaupic, that has this hard T sound is the word for thank. If you'll notice in your language books that this is a hard T, it's supposed to be pronounced tawo, tawo, not tawo, as many people do, and it's not entirely wrong. They are attempting to say the word thanks, but it's supposed to be pronounced with a harder T. So again, every unique character has a unique sound, so this should be tawo. You can also notice that the word for please in Nuwaupic is satat, two hard T's. As a matter of fact, the S on that word is a hard S. So you have saw, and then you have two hard T's. Tat, satat, satat, please, if you please, satat. The next character we want to talk about is the ZD character. Okay, and this character uh, has been disputed back and forth for some time. Um, we like to give our advice on this character um, through a word relation. Uh, in one of the older dialects of Nuwaupic, particularly uh, the dialect that can be found in the Red Book um, and the Blue Book, Nuwaupic Simplified. Um, there is a word in there for the word job in English. The word job in English is wazuf, wazuf in this older dialect of Nuwaupic. Um, the word wazuf comes to us from Nubic, in which the word for job there is wadhuf, wadhuf. Notice that this is a different sound than a Z. What happened is when we went from Nubic to Nuwaupic, many of the sounds were simplified. In the older dialect of Nuwaupic, there was no Q sound. There was no qaf, as in Arabic or in Nubic. There was no qaf. And so many of the words in Nubic that were pronounced with a qaf were changed to G's as opposed to Q's. Many of the harder sounds, such as the was changed to a Z, and this is one of those words. The word for job is wadhaf, wadhaf. This was changed to wazuf. This is not the same word as wazufa, and those who are familiar with wazufa or wazifa, as it was pronounced in Arabic, this is obviously a different word. But now we're introducing this sound again, okay? And so the word for job currently in Nuwaupuyee would be wadhaf, wadhaf. Notice that the tongue exits the mouth and is pinned between the two rows of teeth, the top and the bottom row. And by drawing the tongue back into the mouth and blowing air out, you have this the sound. The, the, the. Okay. So through a word relation, we can see that the ZD sound is this sort of popping sound. Again, in Nubic, it was the, wadhaf. We have wadhaf as a job, or a person who works at a job, an employee, will be muwaddaf, muwaddaf. Okay. And to Nuwaupic as wazuf, a job, wazufun. And now into Nuwaupuyee, we have wadhaf, wadhaf. Okay. There are a number of words in our current dialect of Nuwaupuyee that have this sound. The last character that we want to give advice on is the ZH. Now, the ZH, we come to an understanding on the pronunciation again through word relation, and is probably something that many people are familiar with. Use the word to remember. The word for remember in Nuwaupic, the older dialect of Nuwaupic, from the Red and Blue books, was zakur, zakur. Okay, and that meant to remember. You may be familiar with this word as zakar, right? The name for Adam, the biblical character. And zakar means to remember. In Arabic and in Nubic, the word for remember is dhikr, dhakara, to be dhakara, to be specific. there was a practice that we did as Muslims, um, was to remember the names of Allah, and that is called dhikr. Dhikr, to dhikr Allah. Dhikr. This the is what the ZH sound is now. Okay. In Arabic, this was written as DH. In Nuwaupuyee, it is a ZH. Okay. So we have dhakur as the current word in Nuwaupuyee for to remember. Dhakur. Dhakur. And it is pronounced by placing the tongue behind the top row of teeth and blowing air between the space between those teeth and the tongue. The, the, the. Say dhakur, dhakur. There are a number of other words in Nuwaupuyee that use this character, such as the word for excuse, azur, azur, right? Excuse me, or excuse by way of me, azur bini, azur bini. Okay, so those are all the characters that I wanted to go over. Just a few, four, I think that was. There are a couple of other characters that we may decide to go over later in the future. If you have any questions about any of the things that I've gone over in this video, please do leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. If you would like me to pronounce a word or a sentence for you, you can leave that in the comment section as well. Also, I will take requests on topics that you would like me to go over, and we'll see you in the next video. Wadao.